Ready? Ready? All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at the Albatross Room at Pelican Golf Club and online via Zoom. My name is Jeremy Friedman, the Director of Communications for the tournament. Joining us front and center, Dan Doyle, Jr., owner of Pelican Golf Club, and Annika Sorenstam, the GOAT, Hall of Famer. Tournament host. Couple of quick questions for you guys before we turn it over. So Dan, just want to throw an opening intro to you. So this tournament, it's the fourth year of the tournament. We've got beautiful weather this week, and we've got knock on wood, we've got a world-class field. The course looks great. I was talking with your dad earlier today. He is right over here. He's super excited. So just kind of give us your thoughts and your excitement of the fourth year of this championship and how this is elevated in the past 4 years since you and your dad took over this golf club.
So, I mean, this started as a whim, quite frankly. I mean, we didn't even have a clubhouse when we pitched the LPGA that we could host an incredible golf tournament. And here we built the golf course. So we kind of lived up to that part. But my dad and I had no idea that we could create a golf tournament to this level. The first year, unfortunately, was a bit of a ripoff for spectators because of COVID. So it was a kind of a closed event, but became more like a dress rehearsal. We got to see the traffic flow, how people moved around. But it wasn't a full-fledged event. I wouldn't call it one, at least. And then it kind of got some steam. And, the next year, it was great. We had great weather. The year after, which was last year, my wife's name's Nicole, and we had Hurricane Nicole rip through on Thursday and kind of shut the tournament down, where we kind of went into panic mode. But needless to say, we have an incredible crew. They came out. They had the golf course spotless for Friday, and play went on. People got ripped off again, though, 3 days of a tournament instead of 4. But with all that said, my dad and I, our vision was always to keep raising the level of this golf tournament. And Annika and Gainbridge came to us and said, hey, we would love to join forces, which we kind of went, we've got the GOAT asking us to join forces. And we said, of course, sure, this would be great. This will help elevate the event. We kind of all put our heads together and said, all right, how do we create the perfect event? And it's great having Annika involved because, number one, being a player, being a champion player, really gave us some input on how to take care of the players and things like that. And I will say, in women's golf, they probably aren't treated the best at all courses, and they also don't get to play on the best courses sometimes. And so our goal was, how do we treat them the best, and how do we make sure the facilities live up to any tournament, and make sure the golf course is at a competitive level. And you look out there today, and I'm watching a golfer come down the fairway. You look out there today, and I think we've lived up to that. Now, if this one would say, hey, this is a really nice golf course, it'd be perfect. But the greens are in the best shape they've ever been in. The overall golf course is in the best shape it's ever been in. Having the Annika name on it this year for the first time is wonderful. It makes it a really special event. And I'm sure at the end of it, Annika's a go-getter. She'll have her list just like I do at the end of every year, like my dad does. How do we make it better the following year? So I'm sure we're going to make it even better next year, but I'm excited to kick this year off.
Following up on that, and then we'll get a couple of opening comments from Annika. So this is a property that means a lot to you and your dad. You grew up here, so seeing this come to life, what does the kid Dan Doyle, the golf fan Dan Doyle, think about this tournament and just seeing the world's greatest players out at a course that you grew up playing?
So I learned how to play golf on this golf course. You paid $120 in the summer, and you could play unlimited golf from 2 o'clock on. And I'd get dropped off here at 1, have something in the little snack bar, and then you'd go out and play. And then what I didn't realize, you'd go hide under the biggest tree because we would have an afternoon thunder shower. You'd hide under the biggest tree so you'd stay dry. Now that we own it, we probably have 2 or 3 trees hit by lightning a year, so we were really stupid. But to look at it now and look at this golf course, I mean, this is a beautiful piece of property. We had a lot of neighbors that were probably extremely nervous when my dad and I took it over. Those neighbors have now, come around and said, "Holy cow, this is something special." And now having, looking around, my dad and I sat out here this morning with all the people walking around. It kind of you know, you smile, you're proud of it. You just kind of, oof. I mean, it's quite an event.
That's awesome. Perfect. Annika, so kind of feeding off of that, we talked a little bit about Media Day, you know, about this being your namesake event. It still kind of gives you goosebumps just kind of seeing the name. So just feeding off of what Dan was just saying, so talk about your excitement of being here as the tournament host for the Annika and kind of what your goal is to lead with legacy with this event.
Well, first of all, I'm super excited to be here. It's like finally here. You know, we've talked about it for 12 months, and really to see it and feel it and just hear it, it's just amazing. And, you know, this is a dream come true for, obviously, to have my name on this event. And I know Mike and Outlier worked really, really hard to get this done, but it's a dream come true. And to listening to Dan and say it's a dream for, you know, his family to see it. So we're both kind of living our dreams. It's nice when dreams do come true and you can enjoy it and see it. And no, I'm delighted. It's going to be a great week in so many ways. And the field looks spectacular, and the course, I mean, Dan, it's your crew has done an amazing job. I'm playing in the Pro-Am tomorrow. I get to see the greens and really feel it. But I've spoken to some players, and, you know, they just really say some good things about it. So, yeah, it's, you know, I walk around here, I see my name everywhere. It's great. The branding is fantastic. It's just, it's weird when it's your name and you see it everywhere. So, but yeah, very proud, excited. And I know that, you know, this tournament has, you know, been going on for 3 years. But, I mean, I feel like the standard they're setting this year is already high. So, you know, it's going to be hard to improve, but I'm sure, you know, that you find something. But just, you know, I like to walk around and listen to some of the volunteers, the players, the caddies. And, I mean, all I hear is, you know, just excellent words. So it's nice.
We, earlier today, Nelly Corda was in here and Rachel Keene was in here, all two Annika alums. Both asked, we both asked them kind of their first time they met you and kind of their thoughts of the legend in the game. There's 57 Annika alums that are in this tournament. How does that make you feel that there's so many of the game's current players and the future game's current players that competed in one of your events, and just kind of how you're inspiring the next generation of players?
Well, I love to see these young girls living their dream. I mean, I've seen some of them, you know, from 16 years back, and just kind of see whether it's Nelly Cord, Allison Lee, Eleona McGuire. You said 57. I'm not going to repeat all of them, but, you know, and it's great to have them all here. And, you know, anything, you know, that you do and you see that it's working and you see the results, it's inspiring. And I mean, that's, you know, the Annika Foundation is one of the beneficiaries this week. And what does that mean? Well, it means that one of the sponsor invites went to one of the players that won our collegiate event. And it just kind of ties everything together. A lot of the players that we have in the Annika Foundation events, you know, they are the next superstars of LPGA. So to see it all come together is really meaningful. We had a, you know, great session back here with the Women's Summit. We have two of the Swedes, Lynn Grant and Maya Stark, to talk about their experience. And it's just really cool to listen to their experiences, their first year and coming out here and be able to play. It's just, I don't know, it just makes you want to do more. It makes you say, okay, what can we do next? How can we get more of these, you know, these young players? Because they're great ambassadors of the game. They really do. And I mean, obviously this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Gainbridge. We didn't really mention that sooner. So I want to, you know, say thank you to them because, as you know, I'm sure that's your next question, Jeremy, but it's the Parity Week, right? And you all know.
That was my next question. Yep.
Yeah, so I can stop here and then you can ask if you want.
So with that part, with Gainbridge coming on as title sponsor, so this event is a part of a celebration of women's sports, Parity Week by Gainbridge, with this tournament, the Billie Jean King Cup in Spain, and the Women with Drive Motorsports Summit in Phoenix. You were on a conference call last week with Billie Jean King and Lynn St. James talking about women's sports in general, elevating women's sports. So as being on a call with them, just, you know, it's just take us through that conversation a little bit and just kind of just your thoughts coming out of that and just on how inspiring that conversation was, just talking about where the state of women's sports is today.
Yeah. I mean, it's inspiring. I mean, just to sit there with Billie Jean King, who's done so much. I mean, with Title IX and, you know, just the way that, I mean, every day with Women's Sports Foundation, what she does. And, I really don't know Lynn St. James very well, but I've, heard of her. And I went to Indianapolis 500 and understand a little bit more about motorsports. But, just to listen to, what sport means to them and what can we do in the positions we're in with our careers and how can we inspire others. It's just, putting our brains together, it just makes you, again, want to do more. But it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Gainbridge. And this Parity Week is really fun because, Lynn was talking about many years ago, she was sitting with the LPGA commissioner or the board or something and talking, what can we do together, golf and motorsports? And she said, it didn't really work for motorsports, but it works for golf. So we're like, well, thank you. That's great for us. So we're just going to, but there are other sports we can do it with too. But it's neat to see how far we have come and continue to feel like really this is not the end zone. There's a lot more to go from here, but you need partners, like Gainbridge. You need partners like the Doyle family to believe in the women and want to do it and genuinely have the passion for it. And we couldn't do it if it wasn't a teamwork and team aspect. And that's why I think it's really important. But you're right. It was inspiring for somebody like me that I live for it every day. But to hear their thoughts and comments, and it's like, well, we should do this. And it's hopefully the beginning of more to come, for sure.
Just a couple for Annika. Like Jeremy said, 57 Annika alums, 3 Annika Award winners in the field. What's it been like getting to reconnect with some of these girls and then, not even seeing them, succeed but thrive on the tour?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I this morning at breakfast, I talked to some of them. We saw Allison Lee. She was over there taking photos with the trophy. And I don't know if you know, but when she won it in 2014, she wrote a letter. They asked her to write a letter to Allison 40 years from now. And so this is 9 years ago. So she wrote something, and then they asked her to read it today. And it was so funny. She goes, did I write this? No, this is not going to happen. And she kept going. But the point I'm making is, just connecting with them and keeping in touch with them and seeing them grow and mature in what they're going through. And I can say that with, many of them that I've spent time with since they start playing either in Annika Invitational or Annika Intercollegiate, and just see them blossom as young golfers and young women. I know many of the media here have followed them for years too, so you can echo that. You see what this game is bringing, what kind of individuals this game is creating in a sense, because they're great role models and just wonderful people to be around. And I think we should all be proud that we're in a sport that creates these fantastic humans.
You talked about seeing these players blossom. I don't think anyone's blossomed more than Rose Zhang. Just what have you made of her, short-lived pro career, but just, with so many awards and accolades so far?
Yeah, I think she's done everything you can do as an amateur. This year has been spectacular for her, starting, at Augusta and then the NCAAs and then turned professional. And then, of course, winning the Annika Award, second year in a row. And then to win her first tournament, I think she is... she's living proof that, what the initiatives are out there are working, but also, I think she has a lot to contribute to the game. I know she's very much liked amongst the peers, amongst the media, and certainly amongst, she's a sponsored darling. So it's great I wish she was here. I really do. But maybe she will come in the future when she hears how great this tournament is. But, I've followed Rose for quite some time, and I'm a big fan.
Dan, I'm going to follow up on a more golf course question, because you touched on the golf course and the pristine conditions. So just talk a little bit about kind of what you and Terry have been working on this summer, and just also the overall golf course, and how Terry and Justin have gotten this course in pristine condition for the players this week.
Yeah, so as you said, it was Terry, Justin, my dad, and I sitting at breakfast kind of discussing what do we expect from the golf course. What should we expect from the golf course? And also, let's make it challenging. So, if you look at it, it lays out very well. It's appealing to the eye, but it's really a second shot golf course. So as long as, you can hit it short or long off the tee, but your second shot going into these greens is going to be where it's going to be difficult. Terry's probably got the greens in the best condition they've ever been in. He's finally figured out the balance. We call him, he's a bit of a scientist out there. And, Justin, our chief operating officer, just keeps pushing them to see how much can we get out of this golf course. But I think we've got it to a level right now where it's a championship course. These ladies are going to have a good time Thursday, Friday, and then I think it's really going to be a challenge over the weekend.
And then last one from me before we'll turn it over. As some of y'all seen from being here last year, so the 12th hole is the course's signature hole. So we had 4 holes in 1 last year. Didn't have any this year, or last year. We had 4 holes in 1 2 years ago. None last year. Hopefully to have some this year. So Dan, touch on the 12th hole a little bit, and just kind of what fans and spectators can expect with that hole this year.
So we've kind of built it out a little bit more than we've had in the past. So we've got the Champions Clubs out there, the Lightning Lounge is out there. We put some suites out there, and then we have the Veterans tent is out there as well. So I mean, it's totally surrounded, a little bit like a Waste Management, crowd. It's a little rowdier, a little loud. Morgan Automotive puts up a Lamborghini for every hole in 1. We thought that would go bye-bye after 4 hole-in-ones in 1 tournament. It was a little costly for them, but they loved it. I mean, they loved the pizzazz and the excitement it made. We did learn from that one where the girls all said the insurance was way too high, so they didn't want the car. So then we covered now the insurance and things like that to make it a little more exciting. But it's a great vibe when you come off of 11 and you kind of walk up there. The crowd is excited. I mean, they want to see hole-in-ones. They want to see, but they also, I hate saying this, sitting next to a player, but they also want to see that ball spin back and go into the water, and get a cheer. I mean, they think that's great as well. And it can be difficult, especially if the wind's blowing, if the greens are quick. It's a neat hole.
This is maybe premature. It's a follow-up to what Jeremy asked you earlier. I read that you're a member at Augusta National, and when I first came out and saw this course and walked around, I said, very rarely, I had the privilege of playing Augusta, but the conditions seemed so close. Have you had the chance to compare them, and would you compare them?
Well, thank you. I mean, as you know, I'm probably the newest member, so I have very little experience. So I should ask somebody who's played Augusta a few more times than I have. But it looks magnificent here. I look forward to playing it tomorrow. Mike and I, we did drive around, and it's just, first I thought, is this artificial turf? It was so perfect. But as we know, it's not. But it's an amazing shape, and I like it. Around the greens, it makes it a little tricky. Might be a little, generous off the tee, but then it's really a second shot course, like Dan said, and made me think of second shot. I need a second shot. I can reload. I was thinking more of that shot than having approach shot. So, but yeah, I know it looks amazing. But like I said, I'm new to Augusta. Just super honored to be a member.
All right, if you have questions, just raise your hand. Steve Eubanks, go for it.
Annika, here. As you know, a lot of players have had their names on events before. Byron Nelson, Arnold had his event. Of course, Jack has the memorial. And they were all incredibly engaged. Arnold used to go out and pick hole locations. How engaged here do you hope to be? And Dan, how engaged do you want her to be?
Well, I feel like we have a great relationship. I mean, if I have an opinion, I would voice it. But I also, there's certain things that just not my expertise. I leave it to either the outlier or to Gainbridge. And I mean, it's important that everybody get their objectives taken care of, so to speak. But I mean, I'm going to be here all week pretty much, and I'm just going to, support it while I'm here. But during the year, we've done several things to, talk about the tournament, enhance the tournament. I've spoken to players at different events and said, hey, you should come and play here. So I don't think we haven't really set any rules. It's like, okay, how can we just make this a good tournament? And I think it's an open conversation, whoever has a thought. But I mean, it's one thing to talk about it. Now we're here, and like Dan said, we're probably going to have a list on Monday. It won't be very long. I mean, I think it looks great already, but we'll have the conversation. How can we improve from a player's perspective, sponsor perspective? I mean, everybody, really, partners. I mean, in the end of the day, I mean, we're here to provide, an inspirational experience. So that covers everybody. And I think we just want to do it right. And I know that I have partners that feel the same way.
So I'll second that. I mean, here, we're sitting next to the GOAT. So when she says something, we're going to full attention. The ultimate goal, though, would be for her just to come out and say, it's perfect. Now, I don't expect that, and actually I would give her a hard time if she told us that. But I mean, it's whatever input she wants to have in the golf course, we're happy to accept it. Because, as I said, we want to elevate this event. And coming from a player perspective, I think it's valuable information. And then also coming from a perspective, it's got her name on it. So she's now taken ownership like my dad and I have. I mean, it's got her name on it. She wants to make sure it lives up to her standards.
Annika, congratulations on your Women's Summit that was held earlier
Thank
today. I've covered your career for a long, long time, and I wanted to ask you, as you inspire women with your golf, how have you been able to overcome your shyness? And no one would know today. You're just amazing, but you had you were shy, and how have you overcome that, and how is that an inspiration maybe for young people who are shy today?
Well, thank you. I think, with practice you get better, right? I've been forced to practice and been put in situations to work on it, but I would say that overall I'm a learner. I love to learn. I love to get better and learn from my mistakes. So I realized that this is something that I had to take charge of. I have to, if these are my goals for how I'm going to get there, well, these are a certain aspect of it that I had to learn and embrace, and I feel a lot more comfortable with it. But I think certain experiences in my life has helped me come through the little hurdles that then afterwards made me stronger and more secure and understanding, my role. And so it's just the learning lessons of life. But, it's not like, I raised my hand voluntarily to grab a mic and start talking or singing. But, I understand that, my voice means something sometime. And I think by sharing that story, as you know, I just did it in there. And I think a lot of people can relate that we all have weaknesses, or we all have, we face certain fears in our life, and it's okay. Some of us have more than others, but you have to tackle them to get better at it. And people might think that, you turn on the TV and you see somebody that's done really well. You think that, oh, that was easy, but it's never easy for anybody, whatever field you're in. I think we all have little bumps along the way that we need to learn and handle. And I think people maybe can relate to that themselves and say, you know what, this is not my strong suit. Maybe I should work on that. So, there's no doubt that golf has given me the confidence to tackle that, and it didn't happen overnight either. But I think it humanizes anybody to, because that's, in the end of the day, that's what we are. We're just trying to, good at certain things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I apologize in advance a little for this next question, but there's a little history involved here. When doing a little research about this, it used to be that celebrities were identified with golf. And when I put in Google and I put in women golfers who are recognized with the tournament, nothing came up. But I had my own memories. I saw you play in the Betsy King Golf Classic. You won the first inaugural Betsy King Golf Classic and the second, and would have won the third except for a playoff in 1995 and 96. You also won 2 of Nancy Lopez's tournaments identified with Chick-fil-A. So it got me to thinking, since this is kind of a big deal because it just hasn't happened recently, how did your perspective maybe change? Because that was early in your career. Was it just another name at that point? And I'm jogging your memory, but go through that and maybe looking ahead, based on those experiences, what you really want to see coming out of this.
Yeah, I know we played in Pennsylvania. That was Betsy King's home. I remember that. And, growing up, I just read about Betsy King. She was a Hall of Famer. We didn't have the social media or the coverage of her. So when I joined the tour and I was hitting balls next to some of these Hall of Famers, that's what inspired me. And then obviously to do well in her tournaments means a lot. Nancy's tournament, I remembered, you said Chick-fil-A, it was Stockbridge. She was the host there, and she's always been one of my favorites, and I think she's been a favorite of many. She's always very generous with her time and her smile. But, those are moments that, I think inspire any player. And so I think the purpose of this event is to inspire the next generation, whether it's Lynn Grant who sat in there or whoever it might be. You hope that, they're going to see an event like this or an event like Nancy's, that hopefully one day that they want to follow in the same footsteps and pay forward or bring the game to the next level, or just inspire some young girl or young boy down the road. And I think that's really what to me that these type of events mean. It's elevating them to a level that we haven't seen before. Not just the quality of the course, not just the quality of the food and the partnerships, but the memories and how it touches your heart. And when you leave here, what do you feel? I think that's really what we remember is, and how people, how we felt when we were here, and how it made you think, what's the future going to be like? And that's what I'm hoping with these young girls, that they're going to feel the same.
Annika, I think that popular pastime this week may be asking players, what was your first encounter with Annika? What happened when you first met her? I'd like to turn that around a little bit and ask you, how important those moments are, whether they're now playing in this tournament or maybe they're, just playing high school golf. But it's a huge moment for them to meet an all-time great. What is significant to you about those encounters? And I guess, how do you put them at ease when they may be really starstruck?
Mm-hmm. No, it's because I remember my moments, like I said, when I met, Hall of Famers early on in my career. We were, again, not to just go back to the summit, but the moderator asked Lynn, as being part of the foundation, do you feel like you can talk to Annika if you were struggling or something? And the first thing that she said, I think I can, but she's so busy. It's like, I don't want to bother her. And so I made a point, and I made it afterwards too. I said, you never bother me. On the contrary, I would take that as an honor for you to ask me if I can help you. I mean, they're not struggling on their games right now. But just, I think, I might have achieved a lot on the golf course, but at the end of the day, I'm just a human too. So, when somebody comes up and asks me, can I ask for help? It warms my heart, because she thinks whatever I'm going to say, or he, that it has a value to her or him. So, I enjoy it as much as they do. I really do. I get inspired. I get fired up. All the Annika invitationals or initiatives we have, to see these young girls smile up. Like, first of all, they love the game. They love meeting other players, and then to be part of it. And that, to me, it's kind of like radiates back and forth, So I think it's cool when they do that, these young players, and especially to see them, being 12, 13, 14, and now I'm sitting, seeing Maya Stark in there. I'm like, she's come a long ways. She's won 3 tournaments on the LAT last year, and now she's hitting here and being part of Solheim Cup. I don't know. It's just, you feel connected in a different way, in a good way, because I'm happy for them. The time that they have put in, and some of the words that we have said throughout their journey is really sticking with them.
How do you put a first-timer, a first-time meeting? Maybe they're just 12, and they've heard about you. Maybe their moms have talked you up or whatever. How do you put them at ease?
Well, I try to just, be normal, because honestly, when I was 12, if I met Nancy, I probably wouldn't say a word, because I'm so shy. So I can relate to that. It's like, what do you say, and what do you do? And it's all this. So I try to maybe not take over the beginning, but otherwise it gets a little awkward. It gets a little quiet. So if I can start in sending questions to that person, then they can talk about their game. A lot of times they open up that way, and then things flow a little easier. But in the beginning, that first thing is like, who's going to say what, and so I'd like to bridge that in a smooth way, if possible.
Dan, not to change gears a bit, but you've said you're committed to kind of changing the event, tweaking things. Talk about some of the changes you made this year, walking around, see some of the concourses. Grandstands have been moved. You got the Club 59, and how you expect that to impact this weekend.
I think so. Club 59's out there. We got that idea last year when we hosted the match, and we just wanted to bring spectators closer to the driving range to let them see. Because that's actually, you really get to see the players loosen up. They might get a little tense, but they loosen up. They're talking to their coaches, they're talking to their caddies, and you feel like you're right in there for the warm-up. So we're excited about Club 59. We changed some of the venue out here on between 10 and 18. We thought we cluttered it up too much, to be honest with you, last year. So we wanted to reduce that footprint a little bit, make it a little airier. Thank God the weather's turning out to be what the weather is. And then, as I said, we added some extra seating out on 12. We put some seating out on 16. It's probably the furthest point on the golf course. I'd love to get people back there. I mean, I think the best 4 holes on this golf course are 15, 16, 17, 18. And it can get a little tough, especially if you're tired coming around that bend. And 16 is a perfect, you're right above the green and you're looking back. It's a neat spot. We did add an alligator that lives between 18 and 17. And he's been cruising back and forth. I saw him poke his little head out yesterday. He's probably a 3-footer, so it's like a perfect decorative alligator swimming around. And it is real. It's not robotic, so don't feed him. But I don't know if he'll pop up or not, but it's kind of neat to have them out there as well.
It's interesting because a lot of the tournaments you see, the trend is to go up and bigger and better and more and put a huge grandstand at 8. You guys have seemed like you've kind of almost streamlined it and gone a little more minimal and pushed things to the side and opened it up more. Was that a conscious decision?
It was. I mean, we sat, as I said, soon. I mean, literally Sunday, we'll be sitting in here with an hour to go, kind of writing ideas down that we thought of or we look at and we see. And the idea was to get the spectators close. Let me tell you, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've got to play in the Pro-Am a couple of times, and you meet these ladies, and we sponsor a few of them on the tour as well. They're wonderful. I mean, so if you can get up close and talk to them, and trust me, I've been to PGA events, and I'm not knocking those, but those guys are a little more standoffish. These ladies are wonderful to be with, and I mean, they're joking around and they're having fun. And if our spectators can see that and be close and hear it, they just become fans for life. And I mean, and I will say, our membership here has really put their arms around this tournament. I mean, they love it. I mean, the whole town, actually. Everybody gets excited. They have these girls running around. I call them girls because we're old, unfortunately. But, I mean, you have them out here, and they love it. I mean, our members take ownership in it. They're proud of these players. They take them under their wing. They're taking them out for dinner, housing them. They're doing everything. They're just so excited to have them here, which is also fun to watch.
One question for Annika. You've talked about your name and your likeness everywhere. What's it been like now that the tournament week is here? You're speaking at the Women's Summit. You're being pulled. Your press conferences. What's it like being, the face of this tournament now that the tournament has started?
Well, I think, again, I mean, I'm honored that they want me to be part of it. And I like to do as much as possible to enhance the tournament and elevate it and make it fun, a great experience, and share my passion for the game and my knowledge. So I do anything I can. I mean, I told Marcy, just text me. What do you need? I do that. I enjoy it. I really do. I mean, I think everybody that knows me, that if I put my name on something, I go all out. I mean, it's 100% or more. I just don't, do something and not get engaged. So, I mean, I'm invested in this from a time perspective, and the whole family's coming out. Our kids are coming. My parents are coming, and they don't come to a lot of tournaments nowadays. So I want them to see, because, I mean, obviously they are the ones that put me into golf, so I want them to see that. So that's going to be really neat to be able to share, how far we have come together. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big deal for us. It really is, and it's just, yeah, I'm super proud.
It's a big deal for us too, by the way.
For Dan, you mentioned how welcoming the LPGA players are. Was there one moment that sparked your pursuit of this tour to bring an event here?
Well, to be honest, so the gentleman who runs this club for us, Justin Sheehan, convinced my dad and I over a conference call that we should host an LPGA event. So my dad and I knew nothing about hosting an LPGA event. So it was kind of his dream, and then Dad and I just kind of jumped into his dream with him. But I will tell you, I remember one moment, Gabby Lopez went way out of her way. I watched her. She came up. I was announcing on the first tee, announced her. She was extremely friendly. I was done, so I kind of just followed her around, and I watched her go to every volunteer while she was playing, and I went, you know what? That's class. I mean, that's just, you don't see that all the time, but when you see it, you gravitate to it, and you go, you know what? That's just she went out of her way, I mean, crossed the fairways, and I just went, that's it. That's the moment we look for.
And for Annika, you used the word inspiration today. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, attending the Women's Summit, does that inspire you?
Yeah, I listened a little bit to the panel prior, and just these are, successful women in different different industries, and just to listen to their stories, the things they've gone through, their hard work, and what they're doing today, and just sharing advice and little stories that took them to where they are today. And I think, I talk about golf, but, it's just really, it's life, right? I mean, it's very similar to achieving, setting goals and hard work. I mean, just like all of you doing here. I mean, if you want to get somewhere, you gotta put in the extra work. And I just think it's inspiring to listen to their stories. I mean, we all come from different parts of the world, different, demographic or whatever it is. But in the end of the day, it's like we have personal goals. And how do you share stories, successful stories? I think, a lot of news today is very negative. I mean, you find, kind of the sad stories but when you really hear a good story, it's like, well, that hit my heart. That's something, and I think we can learn that, and especially together. So sharing the stories there, I think it's very meaningful.
Annika, Nellie's looking to do something very special this week, trying to win 3 in a row, something you've done on multiple occasions. How is that pressure unique? And how is it different coming to a place with a vibe of having won several times before?
Yeah. Well, she obviously loves the golf course. So that's a good thing. I think the golf course fits her game. And, I think she's ready to win again. She hasn't won this year, has she? So not to add more pressure on Nellie, but, she's capable of that. And, she's Floridian. She knows this grass. She knows everything. I think, if somebody can do it, she can do it. So it's exciting. And that's what I love. When you come to a tournament, there's always a story. That's a great story. And there are other stories here, like we obviously talk about the foundation and having alumni, and that's another story. But I think it's a neat story. I mean, I think for her, I mean, she's won before. It's just focus on just playing your game. Don't really think things will happen. But, if you stand on the first tee, and I've done this, especially the U.S. Open. I remember in 1997, I was going in for a three-peat, and all I thought about was, what is it going to be to win? And all of a sudden, it's like, that's the wrong mindset, right? So I think for Nellie, just to come out here and play her game and see what happens.
And then you mentioned trying to do small things to elevate the event from a player's perspective. Can you share some of the input that you've had there or feedback that you've gotten from other players?
Yeah, I mean, it starts everywhere from, parking lot, right, to locker room, to practice area, to lunch, to court. I mean, it's just everything that they, somewhat touch. I always ask, what do you see? Do you have that? And sometimes they're really small things that you might not think about, like you said. And so I like to listen and learn from them, because in the end of the day, we want the players to go home and say, I'm coming back and I'm bringing so-and-so with them. So it's just small little things that they see and experience. I mean, in the past, it's been, caddies can't do this. And, caddies is a big part of a player's team, So just listening to what can enhance that, or the course, so it's just, I think we need to listen more than we talk.
Any more?
Just one more curious question. With the level of play that's now evident on the men's tour, on the women's tour, you were so dominant when you were at the top of your game. Do you think it's almost impossible for anybody to have that dominance at that level in today's level of competition?
It didn't feel like that when I played. Maybe sometimes it looked like it, but from a player perspective, it was always cutthroat. It was always tough. I always had to have my my best game. So, it's interesting when you look at the game on, men's side and women's side, it just kind of goes in cycles, right? I mean, who knows what we're going to see? I mean, you always think, well, can somebody be better than that? And then somehow somebody comes around and you're like, wow, it's possible. So it's tough to tell, but I do enjoy I enjoyed when I played winning. That was fun, right? I enjoyed that part. Now when I watch, I enjoy watching the competition between several players when it's a little tight and come down to the last tournament for Player of the Year, or coming down the last hole and you have 3 or 4 players. I find that exciting. So we'll see. I think there's room for a dominant player. I do down the road, but as of now, what we see, I think it's pretty tight on both tours.
All right, we got time for one more question. Any more follow-up questions? If not, we will wrap this up. Dan Doyle, Annika Sorenstam, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.